The iPhone XR would launch back in 2018 alongside the iPhone XS and XS Max, acting as the more budget-oriented option while still carrying the same main camera lens and technical specifications. The downgrades came in the lack of telephoto lens and the lower quality display. Both areas consumers were okay with compromising if it meant the cost was more reasonable. But that was all 5 years ago, and as we journey through 2023, the iPhone XR is in a much different place, whether you're still using it today or are even looking to buy one. It's no longer being sold by Apple, and it hasn't been for a couple of years. Over on eBay.com, it can be found with little difficulty used or refurbished for $200, and often enough well under that, even around the $150 mark, though the lower you go, the worse the condition is gonna get. How does the iPhone XR hold up in 2023? To put it simply, pretty darn well, kind of. To summarize the cons, the XR's camera is dated and there's only one lens. The display wasn't great in 2018, and it's far behind most competition today. It's got a chunky, somewhat unwieldy build compared to the sleek and slick iPhones with their thinner bezels and reduced notches. As an example, the iPhone XR here is actually the same size display as the iPhone 13, but it's still a good bit larger anyways. So that's the bad, and it can be put short as this. It's a 2018 iPhone in 2023, and so of course it's going to feel its age, especially in areas where it was purposely making concessions to get the price down 5 years ago. But there's also a big advantage to the XR nowadays that can be described the exact same way. It's a 2018 iPhone in 2023, and this means you have full iOS software support on a device that, with a healthy battery, is still capable of providing a smooth and reliable experience day over day. It can get the job done, and for a phone that can be had for even only $150, it's pretty darn hard to argue with that. Should you buy one? I would say no, and instead look to the iPhone 11, as it can be had for not much more and make some major upgrades, especially in the camera department. But the XR at $150 to $200 is still pretty solid value in my eyes. And if you're using one in 2023, I wouldn't say you should feel too pressured to upgrade quite yet, assuming you're happy with your device. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I always like to begin these videos by getting the answers out of the way. The XR is good value buying used. There's just better options like the iPhone 11. The biggest flaw with any older smartphone is going to come down to battery life, and you can see that by going to settings, battery health, and here we are. Once you get to around and below 80%, you'll definitely want to get it replaced. Without that, you'll probably experience slowdowns and inconsistencies, but assuming all is well, the iPhone XR is still very much a usable device. So with the answers out of the way, let's take some more time here looking at the hardware, the camera, the experience. How does the iPhone XR really perform in 2023? Coming in a multitude of colors and a full $250 less than the smaller iPhone XS, the iPhone XR was an instant hit among Apple consumers, as it managed to do what the not-so-dissimilar iPhone 5C never could: present good value for your dollar, giving the ultimate iPhone experience just in a dumbed-down form factor. The XS and XS Max were glass and stainless steel, giving a premium slick look, along with their gorgeous and still fairly new for Apple OLED panels, while the iPhone XR, being bigger than the smaller XS and the iPhone X, had a simpler and cheaper feeling glass and aluminum build akin to the iPhone 8 from the year prior, along with that same old Retina LCD screen that had been on iPhones for so many years. As with my last video on the iPhone 11 Pro, I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did in my review from last year on the XR. Frankly, that video is still good, but it has 2022 in the title, and the pricings are outdated, hence this video now. But I will link it in the description in case you're curious on some more raw numbers and technical details, more photo examples, rather than just a general overview that we're doing here. We're plainly focusing on how the phone holds up in 2023, from the build to the camera to the software experience. So as said, the screen here is cheaper and low quality compared to basically anything better than the iPhone 11, which has the same screen as the XR. The iPhone SE from 2022 also has an LCD Retina display, and so it's roughly on par for quality, just smaller and with a home button. The SE is significantly faster than the XR, having the A15 chipset rather than the A12, but even with that, I would probably still take the XR in a lot of circumstances. I'm just too attached to that larger non-home button layout, and the camera quality is probably about on par between the phones. Unfortunately, neither phone has night mode. In darker conditions is where the XR's camera really tends to struggle. Heck, let's just get those cameras out of the way. You've got a single 12 megapixel rear wide lens and then a 7 megapixel selfie camera on the front. Photography as a whole got a pretty major upgrade with the 2019 iPhone 11, and so it does leave the iPhone XR feeling its age. 5-year-old phone, 5-year-old camera, and photos about as good as you could expect. The selfie camera is lower quality, but honestly, it's fine, and it does the job for FaceTime, Snapchat, or whatever you're concerned about, though again, it also was upgraded with the iPhone 11. The main wide lens is good enough to capture moments and memories, and in the right conditions, it can take some really nice shots. But the consistency and reliability in always getting a good image just isn't there compared to newer iPhones. Again, lower lit situations are where it tends to struggle, and even just comparing it to the iPhone 11, even without night mode on, the latter just shows how much newer models improved things. And if we do go to a pitch black situation, you can really clearly see the difference. Plus, the XR only has one wide lens, which means you're lacking the versatility brought with better setups. That wide lens is the same as on the XS at least, which was top of the line in 2018. And so the XR can still take very good photos, particularly outdoors and in the daytime. It's all very situational. The portrait mode annoyingly only works on people, but all in all, I can say with confidence that if you're using the XR right now, you shouldn't be absolutely dying from the camera alone. I wouldn't blame you for wanting an upgrade, but I don't think too many people would really need one. If you're considering getting a XR right now and you do want a good camera, at minimum, I would strongly encourage you to go up to the iPhone 11. It really is an exponential jump. Words in a few comparisons truly can't do it justice, but for a smartphone that can be had for maybe around $150, it's pretty tough to complain too much in how the XR performs. And where the XR really performs well is going to be in speed and the overall software experience. iOS 16 runs just fine on here, and iOS 17 will do the exact same, leaving you with what is essentially the same capabilities as seen on the most expensive iPhone 14 Pro. You can download basically any app and do basically anything, from games to social media to you name it. So the battery life might not be great depending on the health as mentioned, but it'll get you a day of light usage in most cases, and while slowdowns or lag may occasionally appear, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who would guess that this was a 5-year-old phone if they didn't already know it. I'll say it, no Android device in the world ages this well, at least without some custom ROM magic, and the iPhone XR is a great example of how Apple's longevity with their iOS devices is absolutely unparalleled in the tech industry. As far as future updates go, it's tough to give any definitive answer as Apple's patterns seem to vary wildly year to year, but it's safe to say the XR will get iOS 17, and if I had to guess, I think it'll probably get to iOS 18 as well in late 2024. That's no guarantee, but the A12 chipset inside is still very fast and should be more than capable of handling the upcoming updates unless Apple really surprises us. In any case, it means another couple years at least of practical use with software support, along with then yet another couple years of occasional security updates as Apple does with their older iPhones. Again, Apple is the king of updates, and it's not particularly close. A 2018 smartphone holding up this well, even with all the compromises being made when it came out, never mind 5 years later, I mean, it's just an overall outstanding feat. And there's a reason the iPhone XR and 11 are some of the best-selling smartphones of all time. They compromised just the right amount without giving up camera quality or performance, and as a result, they've managed to age tremendously well. I will link in the description my iPhone 11 review if you're interested, and then my iPhone buying guides for both the used and new markets. And so with that, I think I'm right about done here. Not a whole lot to say. I feel like my intro may have been longer than the actual meat of this video, but consider it a good thing. It means not a whole lot has changed with the XR. As it stands, it's still a perfectly decent smartphone at an even better value proposition of around $150, though I'd absolutely aim to get an iPhone 11 instead, as it's just such an upgrade where it counts. The iPhone XS and XS Max I haven't really talked about here, and that's mainly because they're quite different phones, and I don't think they'd really be worth buying instead of the XR. The OLED screens are a lot higher quality, but besides that, there's not a lot to gain, and the battery life on those phones is notoriously awful. The XR in 2023 holds up exactly how a 5-year-old iPhone should hold up. That might sound bad, but it ends up performing really darn well, and so props to Apple for keeping their phones relevant for so much longer than the competition. So if you found this video interesting or helpful, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.